That's it. So click on the shark. All right. Hey, guys. Welcome to the webinar. Thank you all for attending. It means a lot to us here. So just before we start, just some general housekeeping rules. Let me know if you can hear me in the chat box. All right, awesome. Yep, lovely. So please remember to ask questions throughout the webinar, and we'll be doing question and answers at the end. Yes, so, okay, make sure you take plenty of notes because our presenter today, Brett Bowden, has over 30 years experience in this field. He's going to share with you quite a few gold nuggets that he has accumulated. And having this knowledge will allow you to dodge quite a few potholes along the way to buying your first business. So pens and pads ready? Let's get stuck into the content. Brett, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here, Shane. Thanks very much for the introduction. I'm right to go ahead.
All right, excellent stuff. Thanks for agreeing to do this and sharing your amazing insights into your work. And I know you have a lot to get through, so I won't take up any more of your time.
Thanks, Shane. That's terrific. G'day, everyone, and thanks for giving up your time and tuning into my presentation, where I'm going to show you how not to get bitten by any of the sharks out there when looking for and purchasing a business. My name's Brett Bowden, as Shane just said, and I've been a business broker for nearly 30 years now, and I'm sure the knowledge that I've gained in that time and I'm about to pass on in this webinar will keep you safe during the business buying process. The title of my presentation is How to Avoid the Sharks When Buying a Business, and I'm going to show you the 6 steps to increase your chance of success when looking for a business to avoid getting bitten. This webinar is for you if you're not sure where to start in the business buying process. Most people never go down the path of going to business for themselves, so you'd be forgiven for not having a clue on where to start. Let me know by a show of hands in the chat box if it's something that's crossed your mind. Excellent, great, good to see a few of you looking at getting into business for yourself. That's fantastic. This webinar is for you if you don't trust their sellers or their agents. We've all heard horror stories about porkies told by business sellers and or their agents, so a healthy skepticism is not a bad thing. What are your personal feelings about salesmen? I guess we all have mixed emotions when it comes to salesmen. Remember, they're only doing a job and they're no different from you, so don't be frightened by these guys. This webinar is for you if you're not sure which industry you should be considering. Don't be daunted by not really being sure about which industry you want to pursue, and sometimes we need a change from what we've always done to reinvigorate ourselves. Doing a generic search can sometimes uncover an industry you'd not considered before. Let me ask you a question. How many times have you been in a business, be it retail or service, and you've been able to see yourself as an owner? I know as a broker, when I've been listing or showing a business, I've often been able to see myself in their shoes. This webinar is for you if you want to strike out on your own, but feel you don't have enough experience. My experience has shown me that people are a lot more capable than they give themselves credit for, so don't be too frightened to have a go. This webinar is for you if you're not confident you can arrange finance. Business finance isn't that difficult to get as long as you're well prepared and go to the right lenders with the correct applications and paperwork. Don't be frightened by the borrowing process. It may appear complicated, but there are those out there that can help you with the process, such as finance brokers, accountants, and even bank managers. And this webinar is for you if you'd like some guidance in the process. And this is where business brokers can be a great asset. From their experiences, they can guide you in the direction of professionals who can help you with each aspect of the transaction. I'd like to give you a brief snapshot of what I've done. I left secondary school in 1967 and started working on a farm, as I always had a desire to work outdoors and especially with my hands. Unfortunately, I had an accident which saw me unable to walk for 9 months. I guess it was a case of city boy meets the country. Through a family friend, after recovering, I started as a trainee in the shop fitting industry, where I worked for about 18 months. But look, after a year or so, I realised I was not passionate enough about making a lifetime career of shop fitting. So with a mate, I headed off to Western Australia to work in the far north. I was fortunate to get a job with WAPIT, which stands for West Australian Petroleum, in the oil field on Barrow Island. And this was seen as a glamour work in the location in the north. There were plenty of other jobs in mining and all that sort of thing, but Barrow Island was the place to be. Still searching for adventure, after the 18 months on Barrow Island, I left and started a 6-month stint on a prawl trawler in the Exmouth Gulf, working for Kalis Fisheries. Following that, I started work with West Australian Natural Gas, which was a partner company for Wappet. And I worked on the natural gas pipeline between Donga and Perth and worked with gas turbine compressors and radio telemetry. During my time with Wang, I met a fellow involved with the communication industry, and we formed a partnership to set up and run communication business, supplying and installing two-way radio equipment and systems in the WA outback exploration areas and on the offshore rigs. At this stage, mobile phones hadn't been invented, so radio was still very important. After 3 years, I sold the communication business and left the West to set up a sail loft, boat sales brokerage and yacht mast supply business in Melbourne, representing Rolly Tasker, who was a world-renowned sailmaker, yachtsman and businessman. Over the next couple of years, I ran the yacht brokerage and formed a partnership to purchase a marina at the top end of Port Phillip. Myself and my partner fitted out a large shed on the site, which was to become Melbourne's first over-the-water restaurant called the Anchorage. In 1985, I headed for Fiji to set up a yacht charter business for Club Marine Insurance Company. In 1986, I set up a business for McConnell Dowell, a Kiwi construction company, and that business imported and sold remanufactured marble tiles, and that was set up in Melbourne. In 1987, I started work as a business broker, and in 1993, formed my first business brokerage in the industry. So what led me to this webinar? After many years of working with buyers and listening to their concerns, I felt that by arming them with knowledge, this was the best way to help people make the right business decisions for themselves and their families, and to give them the best chance of buying a business that would give them what it was they were wanting to achieve. Here are a couple of my certificates. I've been a licensed real estate agent since 1992, and currently about 75% of the businesses I sell have a real estate component. I'm a fellow of the Australian Institute of Business Brokers and have served on the national executive for a number of years. I was the inaugural Victorian AIBB president and have served on a number of subcommittees within that organisation. I'm a certified practicing business broker and undertake annual CPD training to constantly improve my industry knowledge and expertise. I'm a registered business valuer and find that by working on valuations, this gives me a great insight into business and exposes me to many other industries that I don't see in my day-to-day brokerage. In order to stay at the cutting edge of information, training, changes and improvements in our industry all over the world, I maintain membership in the International Business Brokers Association, which is headquartered in the US. I'd like to talk now a little about my business brokerage journey so you have an understanding of my exposure to the sector and why I feel I'm able to help you in the business buying process. I started work as an agent's representative in 1987 with a company that specialised in selling caravan parks. Within a couple of months, I bought into the business, and my experience has shown me that a lot of business brokers are very entrepreneurial, and that's why we get into this business, and that they want to run their own show. So I bought into the business. In 1992, I started to work with a generalist business brokerage company after selling out of the caravan park brokerage. The main aim here was to gain a broader knowledge of other industries. I gained my full real estate agent's license in 1992 and started my own business brokerage in 1993. In 2005, I travelled to the US and purchased the Australian and New Zealand rights to the Sunbelt business brokerage system. Sunbelt was then and still is the largest network of business brokerage firms in the world. I think they're in about 19 countries. In 2017, Sunbelt in Australia had grown to 5 offices. We had offices in Queensland, New South Wales, Victoria, South Australia, and the Northern Territory. During this time, it was when I became involved in the Australian Institute of Business Brokers and served on the national executive, as I mentioned earlier. In 2010, I sold the master franchise for Sunbelt, along with my Victorian territory and my Victorian office, to concentrate on operating a boutique brokerage offering a more personalised service. 2016, which is now. Currently, my trading company is Australian Business Sales, which I established in 1998. I now work with a smaller number of sellers, offering a principal-to-principal experience. Although I now specialise in selling and valuing accommodation-based enterprises, over the past 28 years, I've marketed and sold businesses in many industries and sectors. Because of the pain I've seen many purchasers endure in the business buying process, I believe I can help buyers by way of training to make what should be a fun process much less fraught with difficulty. I'd like now to show you a brief statistical snapshot of the small business sector, and this information also demonstrates how many opportunities to purchase there are out there. In Australia in 2015, there were 2,121,235 businesses employing 0 to 19 employees. Now, obviously, the 0 is the one-man bands. 4.7 million people were employed in the small business sector in 2015. Once again, this is an ABS or Australian Bureau of Statistics statistic. Females make up 32% of small business operators, and males make up 68%. And the girls are getting into business at far greater rates, but I'm seeing that a lot in my brokerage now with inquiries that are coming through. The age of business owners, interestingly enough, 9% are under 30, and I thought that might have been greater. 58% are in the 30 to 50 age bracket, and by far the largest sector. 33% are over 50, and that sector's growing. These statistics come to you from a company called B-Star, who gather this type of information. Business numbers are on the rise again. And because it's small to medium business enterprises you're looking at getting into, I'd like to give you a little insight into the industry sector you've chosen. The small to medium business sector continues to grow at the moment, albeit at a very much slower rate. The number of actively trading businesses in Australia has increased for the second year in a row, and this is according to the figures released by the Australian Bureau of Statistics. Although there was actually a small drop in the number of new business registrations, fewer businesses closed, giving a total rise of 1% in the business numbers. And that's 1% still an additional 21,000 businesses. Once again, this is an ABS statistic. Victoria saw the largest number of new businesses, while Tasmania was the only state to see a fall in the total number of businesses. Now, unfortunately, small businesses can fail, and a well-known statistic regularly trotted out by the business press that 60% of small businesses fail within 3 years of business startup. Once again, another ABS statistic. Now, I'd like to add here that a lot of small businesses don't fail too. So I don't want to frighten you or put you off what's a very rewarding journey, but if you're looking at a business that's been going for more than 3 years, there's a good chance that it's going to survive. It's worth being aware of the things that look out for when joining the sector though. What you're looking at doing is buying an existing business which may well have been trading for many years. Having raised the spectre of failure, by following a few simple rules, small business is still an awesome way to secure your family's future. I've seen many examples of success, and one that springs to mind is a family which paid around $60,000 for a non-operating business. And this, by the way, was the freehold as well. So they bought the bones of a business and a freehold property sitting on 37 acres of country Victoria. I've since sold this operation for them as their agent, and they sold for $5.5 million. Now, admittedly, this is 27 years later, but as an aside, they were netting $850,000 a year, and that's when I sold it for them. And in fact, the business was closed by choice for 137 days each year. They worked no weekends and no school holidays, totally by choice. I guess $850,000 a year was enough for that family. During this time, though, the family also built and operated another business in the same industry. I sold that business, or just the business component of that, for $900,000. They still own the freehold as a landlord, and that's valued in excess of $2 million. Remembering this all stemmed out of a $60,000 investment in the early stages. This freehold investment still provides a substantial passive income from a monthly rent. So there are many reasons for small business failure. The reasons you can see in this slide are many, and I'm going to give you an actual example which encompasses many of the problems listed here. Insufficient working capital, a non-existent or inflexible business plan, inability to manage costs, poor cash management, lack of a mentor or a coach, and poor and no research. As I said earlier, the reasons are many, and all the ones on this slide. I'm going to give an actual example which encompasses the problems listed here. I had a business startup next to me. It was a cafe, and the new owner had previously worked in a factory, and he was totally amazed by the amount of money the local takeaway took every breakfast and lunchtime, and the fact that when he knocked off at the factory, the takeaway business owner had long gone home. He always drove the latest model car and had a boat and didn't even work weekends, which my poor mate in the factory did. The major mistakes my neighbour made were many. Firstly, he didn't find out what his competition in the area sold. We were in a fairly upmarket shopping strip, and he'd come from a factory lunch bar, and that's where his experience had come from. And he didn't bother to walk up and down the street and see what price point they sold at. He didn't even look at how much competition there actually was, and there was plenty. He'd been comparing his factory tuck shop to a trendy shopping strip area. The other problem he had is he had no real plan other than to make plenty of cash. Not a bad plan, but I think you've got to be a bit more extensive in your planning than that. Interestingly, he once said to me that he was no longer going to serve and sell dim sims as they sold out really quickly, and that wasn't the sort of product he wanted to be known for. But he hadn't thought it through, had he? I mean, at the end of the day, people came in to buy those dim sims, but they also looked around, saw his other produce such as gourmet pies, sandwiches, cakes, drinks, coffee. The list went on, but he didn't want to sell dim sims because he didn't want to be known as the dim sim seller. The other major mistake he made was that on the day he opened, the bank account was empty. He had no working capital. Needless to say, 5 weeks after opening, he closed down. He had substantial debt and the loss of setup capital, not to mention the countless man hours setting up the shop and a lease that was still active. He had to deal with that, and the landlord wasn't going to let him out easily. He had a commitment. Some of the things can lead to small business failure. Growing too quickly. Growth is great, but especially at the start up, the burden of interviewing extra staff, financing extra inventory to cope with more business before all your systems and procedures are in place puts massive burden on you. Sometimes you need to control growth until all systems are working like clockwork and are second nature. Putting on more permanent staff than is necessary is regularly seen in news business. This sometimes is based on the opening rush or the perceived necessary staffing levels. Sometimes it pays to work harder or longer initially until you get real handle on your business. Not taking a break or burnout. A holiday or even a weekend break enables you to recharge. Think about things objectively and come back to your business with a renewed vigour and passion. Working late's fun when you first start. You don't notice the long hours, but after a period of getting the systems and staffing right, you need to step away from the business to review where you're at and where you're headed. It's impossible to do that while you're living and breathing it day to day. Pour into personal skills. You've got to be tolerant of other people's personalities and cultural differences, and that's really important. Some owners are also micromanagers and trust no one with their baby. This means trying to do too many different tasks and not trusting staff with such things such as the locking up at the end of the day. Sometimes it's good to get away early, leave the stuff to it, and let them lock up, and you can get away and think about where you're at and so on, rather than staying so late and being joined us at the end of the day. Bad staff choices are another problem. I've seen many business owners employ staff members and family members of staff. That brings an extra level of difficulty that's different to working with work colleagues. Sometimes you're harder on family than employees, and that really shows. Sometimes I've seen people employ pretty people, but they lack the necessary skills. They look great, but they project a certain image which may not be suited to the job in hand. Winging it without getting expert assistance. By this I mean it's important to get professional help in areas you're not strong in. As an example, maybe HR, accounting, or setting up stock control systems. There are many more, but sometimes realise that you don't have all the knowledge and get outsiders to give you a hand. I don't want to dwell on the negatives, but it's important to realise that all small businesses are a risk. And with careful planning, preparation and implementation of a business plan, that will give you the best chance of success. Poor and insufficient marketing. This is a big one. Sorry about my stammering there. Never forget marketing. And I find that most business owners put this off until there's a break in the day-to-day pressures or where the money becomes available. My experience is the pressure is relentless and there's never a break. So, in fact, marketing is probably the most important thing you'll do. And harking back to my next door neighbour for an example, he was always going to do a leaflet drop. Plus, he was going to contact some of the large office complexes surrounding us to tell them what he offered. Guess what? He was always too busy serving dim sins and waiting on tables or talking with his dwindling number of customers to market for new clients. It was always something on his to-do list. If he'd actually gone out and done a bit of marketing, done a bit of door knocking, he'd probably still be in that business today. Not being innovative or watching your chosen industry. And by this, I mean, don't be a Me Too business and look for ways to make your business stand out. There's plenty of other businesses out there. You've got to stand out. Avoid being plain vanilla. Keep an eye on your competitors, but you don't necessarily need to mimic everything they do. Poor bookkeeping and paperwork. Paperwork's no fun, but by not doing it daily means that it becomes one of those nagging subconscious problems that causes you to lose focus on the day-to-day work and improvement in your business. It's always in the back of your mind. Some may call it the sort of Damocles effect. Interestingly enough, though, we've talked about failure. My experience has been mostly that businesses never fail and people do. I'd like now to give you a couple of examples of people who I've helped get into business that suited their circumstances. I put this slide up to demonstrate how even if you think your position is hopeless, there are many ways to get into business. Roman and Imelda Catherman are the owner-operators of Alamy Camp in Victoria. This family weren't the ideal purchase from a broker's perspective. They were working in far outback New South Wales. They had no Australian business or banking history to enable borrowing, and they had no specific industry skills and not a lot of capital. The one thing they did have, though, was a burning desire to get into a business and do their own thing. They purchased a leasehold and then later they purchased the freehold. Now, the reason for this was they didn't have enough money. They loved the business, didn't have enough money to buy the whole thing. I was able to convince the owners to sell the business to Roman and Imelda, and then with them being able to purchase the freehold at a later date once they built up a bit of cash and established for the bank that they were able to run the business successfully. The vendors were happy with that arrangement as they collected rent while the Cathermans were building up their experience. They were originally from Switzerland. Imelda was a bookkeeper and Roman was a blacksmith, which is an industry that I didn't think still existed, but there you go. And when they first immigrated, they were employed on a rural property in outback New South Wales. I was able to find them a business to assist them with information and assist them with information to put their business plan together. This really highlights the need to work with professionals who understand the industry and more particularly the industry you've chosen. This slide shows another example of how we assist even large corporate buyers in achieving a satisfactory purchase. I've dealt with individuals, families, companies and large corporations, and each one presents unique challenges. In the case of PGL Adventure Camps, we had to work with Simon, who came to Australia from the UK to be the local representative of Cox and Kings, the parent company, and they are a major European travel organisation. As a matter of interest, they're the oldest established travel company in the world, set up about 265 years ago in the sailing ship days to take people out to the colonies, especially to India. We had to satisfy a foreign board about the business they were buying, which added another layer of difficulty in the transaction. They've now bought 2 large group accommodation businesses through my agency and are on the lookout for more purchases. I'd like now to give you an outline of the major steps to ensure success in the business buying process. Step 1 is selecting the right business. Think carefully about what it is you're capable of. Do you have the skills and knowledge? Be brutal about your abilities and beware of the grass is greener. Let me ask you a question here. How many times have you looked at someone in a business that you are visiting and envied them and what they have? You need to stop and analyse what they've had to do to get to where they are. Maybe it was a tough trip, or maybe they took over the family business. Perhaps you wouldn't end up in the same position if you entered that industry now as opposed to when they started. They could have started 10 years ago and things were very different then. Step 2, the business search. There are an enormous number of places to look for suitable businesses, but beware of not starting with a well thought out wish list. When you decide to do something, do you have a plan, or do you head off like a bull at a gate and hoping that all will end well in the end? Sorry. The bull at a gate method rarely works when searching for a business and can result in financial disaster if you select the wrong business. Step 3, negotiate and pay the right price. Now, obviously, this is a bit of a no-brainer. Do an industry search and try to ascertain what multiples the industry you've chosen is currently selling on. Don't overpay, because one day you'll be a seller, and this should be one of your considerations when working out how much you're going to pay. Negotiate from a position of strength after doing your research, and you'll find that word research pops up a lot during this presentation. Knowledge is king. Also, make sure the negotiation is a win for you, but also for the seller. How many times have you witnessed someone negotiating on something and they must beat the opposition number at any cost? These sort of negotiators either rarely win or only succeed to set up a really unpleasant negotiation. Step 4, due diligence. Due diligence is you checking out the business to make sure what you've been told is what you've been told is what you're going to get. Have a due diligence checklist, but don't make this too heavy duty. I've seen situations where buyers have used a list that would be more in place for the purchase of BHP and not a small to medium enterprise. And as a word of caution, don't get hung up on unimportant details. Another example of this is in a recent transaction I just had. The purchaser was a very experienced consultant prior to deciding on changing industries, and he approached the business buying process like it was a consulting job. Now, the business he was buying was in the printing industry. He couldn't seem to let go of his previous life, and he had a checklist that was going to take literally a week of 8-hour days to complete. The upshot of the grief caused with the vendors, who were a fairly laid-back family, was that one of the selling partners refused to continue with the sale, and they had to do some rapid mediation to water down the due diligence process and calm the aggrieved partner. Otherwise, the transaction was about to fail. Step 5, legal and settlement. Get quote from lawyers who understand small business, but more particularly the industry you've chosen. They will arrange all the details right through to settlement. A real example of what can go wrong if you don't get a quote. I had the sale of a small photography business, and the 2 lawyers decided to get into a contest to see who was smarter. One was from a large firm of city lawyers, and the other was from a suburban firm, and they both obviously took an instant dislike to each other. Both the seller and the purchaser bore the brunt of the battle, with the business owner paying nearly $19,000 and the purchaser around $24,000 for conveyancing on the sale of a $240,000 business, a job which should have cost the respective parties no more than about $5,000 each. A quote would have saved a lot of money. So, step 1, selecting the right business. Don't overlook your past experiences. You may not have enjoyed everything you've done, but there's a lot of knowledge there that you can use to your advantage. What experience and skills? What are your skills and experiences, in other words? What are you passionate about? It's always easier to be wildly successful at something you enjoy rather than something you think may be needed, or jumping on the next bright, shiny object or fad. The business location, this is important. Don't take on a business that's too far from where you live. Initially, the commute will not be an issue, but as you've settled in and the honeymoon period is over, the travel will become a burden. It's non-productive time, and that you'd rather be spending with your family or spend with your hobbies and interests outside your business. You must also make sure that it's located where the clients are located. That's a bit of a no-brainer, but make sure it's there. Size of the business. Buy a business that's within your capability to run, but make sure it's got growth potential as well. Taking on something too big will do your head in and add to the anxiety and take your focus away from the day-to-day marketing, running, and growth. Features relevant to your needs. Not every business is suitable for your situation. Don't take on something because friends or acquaintances have done well or appear to have done well. My experience has been that friends rarely tell you the truth about how well or poorly they're doing. Return on investment is pretty important, isn't it? Make sure that you get a good return on the money that you've sunk in and for your time. Even though at the moment you're going to get 2.25% return for cash from the bank, bear in mind you'll be giving away not only cash, but time, energy, and the benefit of your wisdom, which has cost you plenty of money to get. Return for risk. Remember, the higher the risk, the better the return must be. Also remember that the earlier reference to failure. Unfortunately, some ventures don't succeed. You must be rewarded for taking a risk, so make sure you're getting a reward. Return for effort. And return for effort relates to the equivalent of your wages. You must avoid going from a well-paid job to a poorly paid position in your own business. Relate the hours you put into an hourly rate, but also be flexible and think about where the business can go. Long hours now could be the path to building a much bigger business in the future, whereby you'll be able to employ more people. It'll take some of the tasks away for you, and that'll allow you to work less hours or to work on the business rather than in the business. Step 2, the business search. Do you want to work from a home business, perhaps retail, working with your hands, manufacturing, service, employing staff, and working as a manager? The possibilities are endless, so it's important to have a starting point. It's also important to remain somewhat flexible, though, as your search may eliminate some choices or even bring to your notice something that you hadn't considered earlier. Make sure your dream business can turn a profit. There's no point putting in enormous hours in something you love if you're not going to get paid for your time or get rewarded for your investment. Make sure your hobby or interest is scalable. This business, if not profitable, will eventually wear thin if there's no financial return. Set a timetable. By setting a timetable, I don't mean being rigid, but sometimes if you don't have a specific timetable for the search, as time goes by, it all becomes too hard, and other industries, other events or interests take over. Where to start looking? The internet. Now, the internet's a great source of information, but like all media, you need to analyse everything you see. Many businesses are advertised for well in excess of what they're worth, or in fact they eventually sell for. Don't be frightened by brokers. They have an enormous amount of data and knowledge, not only of past sales, but also of businesses not actually advertised at all. Many great businesses never get advertised, but are sold off market to people who are already in the buyer's business broker's database. Look for brokers that specialise in your chosen field, but like all professionals, don't take everything they say as gospel and still make your own inquiries. Nevertheless, they're still a great source of information. Friends and acquaintances mean well, but will in most cases have limited real knowledge and will generally be negative to what you want to do. They have a fear of giving advice which later turns out to be incorrect and could affect your friendship. So their advice isn't always that terrific. Newspapers, magazines, and industry newsletters. Newspapers don't have the number of ads they used to carry, but can still be a fertile source. Also look for industry-based magazines or industry newsletters if you can get your hands on them. When you actually see a business you like, don't get hung up on the obvious things. Have a critical eye and look for all aspects of the operation. The importance of inspections. This has a slide of its own for good reason. This is probably the most crucial part of the business buying exercise. Inspect with a list of questions and make sure you listen to and analyse the answers. I had a recent experience, once again with the small printing business that I'm selling, where the intending buyer, an engineer, was so busy trying to seem knowledgeable that he wasn't listening to the answers to his questions, but was planning his next question. In this case, during the inspection, we were going through each item of plant and equipment. The seller had just told him that he hadn't used a particular machine for a couple of years, and the buyer's very next question was, how many times do you use this machine each week? He was obviously not taking in the information, so I don't know what he was doing there. He wasn't an eventual buyer of this business, by the way. Inspections revealed plenty, and take your time. Be careful and don't let the vendor or agent, if there is one, control what it is you look at or you don't see. But don't be confrontational and be humble. Don't talk yourself up or enter in a game of one-upmanship. Just remember you're there to get a feel for the business and whether it suits you or your end goal. Negotiate and pay the right price. I want to talk a bit about rules of thumb. These can be pretty dangerous if not used with caution. Ensure that you're comparing apples with apples. Consider what's happening in your chosen business's areas that affect the future. As an example, Don't compare a city restaurant in a major shopping strip with a restaurant in a small seasonal tourist destination. Comparable sales. Now, where do you find these? Brokers have plenty of data about similar businesses that have sold, but still make your own inquiries. Accountants can sometimes be a good source of information, but make sure that the firm you're speaking to has a large list of businesses as clients. Demographics. Some of the things to look for include: what's the future of the area? Is it growing, static, or declining? What major infrastructure plans are there going on in the area? Are you looking at an industry that has traditionally supported the workers that are in that area, but it's a sunset industry like a newspaper? So if that industry is not going to survive, what chance have you got for the future? Look at your ability to service borrowing. Make sure there's some money left for you after paying financing costs, wages, suppliers, and for the day-to-day running costs. Working capital requirements are very important. Make sure you've allowed enough working capital to enable you to pay invoices and wages as they arise prior to your first income. I don't want to flog my old next door neighbour, but remember his experience. He didn't have enough working capital, and had he had the working capital, he may still have been there today and still in business and not lost all that money. Timing of settlement's really important. Look at the strong trading months and make sure you're prepared for quiet months, especially if they coincide with your takeover. Will you be taking over in a quiet period where cash in doesn't cover cash out? Don't be frightened to negotiate. Just because the owner has set a price, it doesn't mean it ends there. Many times a price set is a wish figure based on the vendor's needs and not on any reality at all. I've seen instances of businesses being sold for a fraction of their asking price, and in some cases not even covering the real value of plant and equipment. But the vendors are so keen to get out of the lease and move on from the business that they sold quite cheaply. Don't lose sight of what you're trying to achieve. Sometimes a purchaser gets so tied up in the game of negotiation and the need to have a win, they forget what the end game is. And that end game is the purchase of a business to secure their future. Don't make ultimatums you don't intend to keep. Many purchasers say something in the heat of negotiation they don't mean, but once it's out there, there's no way back. An example might be, if you don't include the vehicle in the sale, the deal's off, and then you concede. Next time you make an ultimatum, the vendor takes no notice because he knows that you're just making crazy statements. Don't try and second guess the other party. The mistake that buyers make in the negotiation process is that they think they know what the vendor's thinking. They plan their negotiation around that and then find out they're 180 degrees off target. So anything that they were thinking just goes out the window. Understand the seller's proposal. Before you enter into a negotiation, make sure you fully understand what's on offer, the makeup of the price and the reasons for selling. The vendor may have offered for a particular reason, and you need to know what his reasoning is to be able to work out what the business is worth and then negotiate. Plan your negotiation and never think on your feet. Research is important, and use the information gained from that research to plan your negotiation. This will enable you to be confident during the process and not have to shoot from the hip or say something that may compromise your position. Information's power, which equals better negotiations. The research, and that word's going to crop up a lot in this presentation, the research you do will give you information which in turn gives you confidence to stick to your guns on the points that are important to you. Know beforehand what you're prepared to concede. In planning your negotiation, make a list of must-have and nice-to-haves, and that'll then make your negotiation much smoother. Length and timing of the negotiation. If your negotiation is too quick, the vendor will think you're desperate, and he will obviously stick to his guns. If you dilly-dally and mess around too long, this will give him the impression that you're a tire kicker and cause him to lose interest in the process. He won't take you seriously, and he'll start looking for other purchases. Sometimes the importance of a third party enables you to keep your powder dry, smooth out the barbs, so not insulting the vendor, which can start off an adversarial negotiation, or the seller will cease negotiations altogether. Win-win. A good negotiation ensures that each party feels as though, although they didn't get everything they wanted, they did have some wins. And this is really important in any negotiation. Due diligence is you checking out the business to make sure that everything you were told was accurate, that all items of plant and equipment are working, and all necessary permits and so on are in place. There are no council orders and that sort of thing on the business. Who does the due diligence? You've got to decide whether you'll do it or if you're going to use a third party or a combination of both. There are some things that only an expert can carry out, so be very careful when you're considering doing everything for yourself. If you're going to select a third party to do due diligence, decide whether you're going to do it. Get quotes and make sure they're a good fit for you and the business you're looking at. As an example, a top-tier accounting firm or legal firm would be unsuitable for due diligence to purchase a small suburban takeaway. Sure, they could do the work, but they'd be prohibitively expensive. If you have a great checklist, many buyers are capable of carrying out their own due diligence. And the only rider I'd put on that is that that depends on the size of the business, and if it's a really big business, a professional may need to be employed. There are certainly accounting and legal firms out there who have due diligence experience and are able to provide great advice. Due diligence timing. In most cases, due diligence takes place after signing a letter of offer, but prior to signing an unconditional contract. Avoid the mistake of doing too much due diligence prior to putting your offer forward. You could easily waste a lot of money and time only to find out your offer was never going to be acceptable. A due diligence list. Be careful that you put together a list that's relevant to the size and type of business you're purchasing. When selecting a lawyer, make sure it's someone who can get on with that you can get on with and you like their style. Get a couple of quotes from suitably qualified lawyers and be very specific on what it is you want them to do. Make sure they can handle your transaction in a timely manner and that they're not involved in a big glamour deal that will overshadow your transaction. They may have too much work already. Make sure they're not involved also in a court case that will see them not available for long periods of time and that they're able to return your calls and emails quickly. Remember that in many contracts, time is of the essence. Make sure you give clear instructions when engaging a lawyer regarding what you want and be essential. And this is essential to avoid gouging. Sometimes jobs can keep on growing because a lawyer has done work which is not necessary. And I've seen many cases where where the lawyer started to renegotiate the deal, adding more unnecessary expense to both sides. A lawyer is essential to peruse the contract and terms, plus look over a lease and any property documents if these are included in the transaction. Because this is something they do every day, they'll see things we as laymen have no hope of picking up. Within reason, be involved in the process, but don't blindly follow the advice given. Remember, don't be shy to remind the lawyer that he's working for you and must act on your instructions. So let's recap. Step 1, selecting the right business. Countless unnecessary hours and expense can be burned if you have not given a lot of thought to selecting a business which is right for you. Step 2, the business search. Make sure your search is exhaustive, using all avenues available, and don't believe everything you're told to see in ads. You could also end up being blinded by the marketing, and not until after you've purchased do you realise that what you thought you were buying doesn't exist. Step 3, negotiate and pay the right price. It's a bit of a no-brainer, isn't it? Research is essential when ascertaining what you should pay for a business. You can use information gleaned from brokers, the internet, other business for sale advertising, and personal experience. Have a plan and list the must-haves and then the like-to-haves. If you're not confident, consider having someone negotiate on your behalf. Due diligence. Create that due diligence checklist, and if need be, engage a professional, depending on the size and type of business. Some things, such as building inspections, need to be carried out by professionals. The more a generalisation is, the more complicated the business, the greater the need for engaging experts in each aspect. Step 5, legal and settlement. Engage a lawyer who has a track record in small business conveyancing and make sure he's able to carry out your work in a timely manner. And there's a picture of a recap. So when you leave this webinar, you've got a lot of great information from me. If you haven't bought a business before, it can be a little overwhelming. So what can you do about it? Is it okay if I show you the fast and easy way to make all this happen for you with a minimum amount of pain? In order to eliminate the multitude of traps that can catch you out when buying a business, I've created Business Buying Mastery to help you with your business search, decision making, and to give you the tools to avoid many of the common pitfalls. You're going to receive a step-by-step instruction on how to implement this strategy right now. The great thing with Business Buying Mastery is that you'll be able to buy the right business right the first time and live the life you've always wanted. There are 7 modules in the program, and they are: Module 1, the right business for you and your family. In Module 1, I'm going to show you what you should do, look out for to match your new business to your circumstances so you can achieve your goals. Module 2, in this module, I'm going to show you how to find what it is that you're looking for and to give you some time-saving tips. Module 3, what to look for when asking and inspecting. Doing a business inspection and knowing what to ask will uncover things that an inexperienced business buyer could not hope to find. Module 4, paying the right price. Nobody wants to pay too much, and conversely, no one wants to miss out because they're not tuned into what in paying the right price. In this module, I'll show you how to evaluate the business and price it according to your circumstances. Module 5, negotiating to win. We spend our whole life negotiating on a multitude of levels, and I'm going to reveal the tactics that will ensure you get what you want and pay the right price, obviously. Due diligence, and this is how to check out the business. The due diligence information that's revealed in this module will make you an expert and save you money by not having to employ a professional for many aspects of the transaction. Just remember, though, there'll still be some places you have to employ a professional. Contract to settlement. This module will outline what's required of you and your conveyancer, and by being informed, the process will be simplified and cheaper. So the total value here at seven modules at $297 is $2,079. And that's value and not a cost, so you won't be paying that much today. With Business Buying Mastery, you'll get full support. You'll get 6 30-minute Skype sessions, one-on-one, to guide you through using the Business Buying Mastery program. You'll get 6 months unlimited email access to me, so to track your way to success. The total value of this support is $2,500, but as with the previous slide, this is the value and not the cost, so you won't be paying that much today. Before we move on, I'd like to give you a couple of my favorite business quotes. A business has to be involving, it has to be fun, and it has to exercise your creative instincts. There's no surprise there that that's something that Sir Richard Branson would say. So another one from Robert Kiyosaki, and very relevant if you're looking to go from employment to working in a business of your own. Why would you work hard for something you'll never own and you can get fired from it right away? Just think about that. That can happen. You can work really hard for a boss, and at the end of the day, he may not appreciate you. And the last one, and this is one of my favorites, from Donald Trump, who's maybe the next president of the United States, interestingly. You have to think anyway, so why not think big? And certainly the Donald thinks big. So here's what you get. 7 modules, $2,079, 6 30-minute Skype sessions with me valued at $1,000, a 6 months unlimited email access at $1,500, and that's unlimited. You can email me anytime. Total value here is $4,579. And at the risk of sounding like a broken record, guess what, guys? You're not going to pay that much today. Stay tuned to receive a remarkable offer. Plus, I want to reward you if you've already made up your mind. You've hung with me this long, and action takers should always be rewarded. So you have till the end of this webinar to get the following additional great extra value bonuses. Bonus number 1 is the list of industry links for locating businesses for sale. You'll get industry advertising links along with the names of reputable brokerage firms and avoid costly mistakes of doing it yourself, plus saving you days or weeks of wasted time. These links have been put together from my own contacts and years of exposure to the brokerage and business buying world. This list will save you hours of fruitless searching and interviewing of brokers, and will get you in touch with reputable and honest agencies who will respect you and your search. There's a list of the best business for sale sites. Some of these will not be obvious to you. The sites I'm going to show you contain easy to use search functions and have the latest business for sale listings. Rather than frustrating generic internet searches, they go directly to sites that will give you the best results. This is a value only and you won't pay that much today. I'm going to give you a step-by-step due diligence list. You'll get comprehensive due diligence list. Accountants and business advisors jealously guard this list and generally insist on being involved in the process, thereby charging exorbitant and unnecessary hourly rates. This information alone will save you the whole cost of my series. The due diligence list that I'm going to provide you with is comprehensive and is also customizable, so it can set up to suit the business you're interested in purchasing, whether it be big, small, complicated or simple. Using this list will ensure that you don't miss investigating any important aspect of the business you've selected to buy. This is valued at $297, an excellent value on its own, but you won't pay this much today. Bonus number 3, consultation. I'll provide you with the most probable selling price of the business you've selected, and once you've selected it, and help you to avoid costly mistakes and help you to arrive at a sensible offer price. Once you've located the business you want to buy, I'll give you an appraisal of its most probable selling price. You'll have a realistic appraisal of the price and on the business you've settled on, and this will ensure that you don't pay too much and also know what to look out for when negotiating to win. This is valued at somewhere between $1,650 and $3,500, and obviously that variance is based on the type of business. These dollar amounts are not made up, and the sums regularly charged by reputable, experienced brokers to properly appraise a business. There's a well-documented procedure to follow to arrive at the most probable selling price, and this amount is what you would normally pay for a professional appraisal, but you won't pay this much today. So here's what you get. 7 modules valued at $2,079. 6 30-minute Skype sessions valued at $1,000. 6 months unlimited email access valued at $1,500 plus industry links valued at $197. Due diligence checklist valued at $297 and consultation fee valued at up to $3,500. Giving a total value of $8,573. That's a fair chunk of change, you'll agree, but with fear of repeating myself, you won't pay that much today. Can you do this another way? Of course you can. We've all been around long enough now to know that there are many ways, many different approaches to solving any puzzle. $8,573 is a lot of money in anybody's language, even though some may consider it's cheap, and make sure you avoid future disaster. But I want to make this as easy as painless as possible. Of course, there's another way, and like most things in life, there are always alternatives. Not all of them make sense, though. Your alternative to our program is hours of trial and error. Money is spent with professionals, miles travelled doing inspections and time wasted on fruitless search. And after all of that, the risk you won't find what you're really looking for and end up going back to work in an unrewarding job which you hate. I've seen families torn apart from the frustration that comes from an unstructured business search, or even worse, the wrong business purchase, which has led to financial disaster, at best or at worst, bankruptcy. The fact is, there's no comparison to following our system. Here's why I'm going to give you an amazing offer today. Because I want your success story, I'm willing to help you in your search. Your success is my success, and I'd love to be able to use your success as a testimonial in my business. After today, I'm at least going to double the price of this package. So for the next 15 minutes, you won't pay $8,573. You'll only pay $497, and I'm sure you'll agree it's a very keen offer. Remember, you not only get the greatly reduced price for Business Buying Mastery, but you also get 3 massive value bonuses at an insane $497. You have till the end of this webinar to sign up to what is an amazing program, and after that, the price will at least double. Signing up to Business Buying Mastery will give you the best chance of buying the right business with a minimum amount of fuss or risk. Type the link on this slide into your browser or click on the Buy Now button below.
All right, excellent. Thanks a lot for that, Brett. Excellent.
No
So,
problem.
guys, if you want to take advantage of that offer, the link is in the offers panel on Webinar Jam there. So just hit the buy now button. You'll go through to PayPal and you can take advantage of this fantastic program. Wasn't that a great webinar? Lots of really good information there from Brett. 30 years accumulated knowledge coming at you. Awesome. All right, so we've got another session at 7 o'clock Sydney time for everybody out there in Australia. I'm sure a lot of you will want to invite your friends and family along to the 7 o'clock session as well. So, yeah, if there's no questions or anything like that, then we will call this a webinar and we'll wrap it up here. What about you, Brett? Did you want to add anything?
Thanks, Shane. Sorry, I was just drifting off listening to your very careful words. There were just a couple more things I'd just like to quickly go to if I could. I'd failed to click on this button. I was going to just let everybody know that there's a 30-day risk-free trial, which makes the purchase of Business Buying Mastery a no-brainer. I'm also going to give a 30-day risk-free trial, as the slide shows. And the reason for this is you don't know me, and I don't expect you to trust me. And for those of you that are still a little skeptical that someone in this industry is generally wanting to help you in their business search and to avoid getting bitten, I'm offering this 30-day money-back guarantee, no questions asked. So all the risks on me. I'm confident that by the end of this Business Buying Mastery webinar series, you'll have received enormous value and be well placed to tackle a business buying process head on. That was what I just wanted to add, Shane. Thanks for giving me that opportunity.
No worries. Yeah, no worries. Really good value there, guys. So 30-day risk-free trial. I doubt you'd find that anywhere else from anybody that's offering these kind of services when you're buying a business. So yeah, really good value there. Grab the link, click on the buy now button, and you'll go through to PayPal so you can make a purchase and start learning the tips that Brett has spent accumulating over his 30 years worth of experience. All right, so if there's no questions, we will call this a webinar, and we'll see you if you want to invite some friends and family along that are interested in the 7 o'clock session. We'll see you then. All right, so that's me saying thank you very much for attending, and we'll see you on the next webinar.
Thanks very much, Shane. We'll see you all at 7 o'clock.
All right, so just jump out and stop broadcast down the bottom.
Where's that?
Red button down the bottom.